If you've been around the channel for a while, then you know that I tend to have a thing for Arizona. So it should come as no surprise that this ink from Colorverse is another reminder of my home away from home. So now that we finished the entire Kaweco lineup, I guess I need to find some new inks to fill the schedule. After all, this channel is called the Inkedwell, and you guys do tend to watch my ink videos more than anything else. So this week, we're going to keep that ink train going and go with an ink from the Colorverse USA Special Ink Set. This is Red Rock. I've got to give it to Colorverse. I really like the packaging on these 15ml bottles. The QR code does make for a nice replacement of the normal booklet with series information, and for a company focused on providing all the information they can about an ink, I find that the outer packaging is actually a pretty close match to the final result of this ink on paper. But we'll take a look at that a little bit later on. Back to this, however, when we open the box, we are getting the standard warnings, which if you want to read them, you can pause the video now or come back to them a little bit later. What we are here for, though, is under this flap and this flap. And we also do have the stickers inside the box. This is the only other thing in the box aside from the ink bottle, which, as we were saying earlier, is the 15ml bottle, instead of the more unique 30ml bottles that you get in the newer ink versions. Aside from being a pain to store due to the footprint of these bottles, I actually like this unique look and hope Colorverse keeps it up for quite a while. But I've gone on long enough with the packaging on this one, so let's take a look at the ink itself. This time around, we are starting with the ink blot. We have a few different reds on display here, and for me, each one feels like a bit of a callback to the different parts of Arizona. Starting with the lighter tones, they're just a tad too saturated for Sedona, but almost spot on for the cliffs along the Mogollon Rim just outside of Payson. The darker mids remind me of the painted sandstone that I'm greeted with when I'm driving along near Holbrook, and I'm getting some definite Sedona vibes as we move into those transition tones. What I really like about this ink, though, are those midnight-esque tones. If you've ever been out in the desert and watched as the sun set, then you've definitely seen this on display. That final moment before the sandstone fades to black, there's just something calming about that color, and if a broad nib can get us close to that, then I'm definitely going to be a fan of this ink. But let's take a look at the other key performance indicators and see how this ink stacks up. First up is Tomoe dry time. I think I need to start setting realistic expectations with this paper, because this ink is dry just over 20 seconds, and that happens with a lot of inks, so you kind of need to take this with a grain of salt. Most people, though, will probably experience this performance that we get on Rhodia, where we see the ink completely dry just under 15 seconds. It's not the fastest ink we've seen, but it's definitely a good performance. Moving on over to the water test, this is one that I look for when I'm determining if an ink is going to become a daily driver or end up on the shelf. This also helps me determine if I'm really okay with the price, which for an ink that's running almost $11 for 15ml, this one has a lot to live up to. So let's get the water off the page and see what we've got. Now, this is a lot better than I was expecting, but if I'm going to give this a rating out of 10, it's still only going to be about an 8.5 or 9, which is still really good, don't get me wrong. But let's see how this ink is going to perform out of a pen. Starting on Rhodia, I've got to admit that I was hoping for more of those darker transition tones. We are definitely in Sedona territory here, and for the most part, I'm kind of getting flashbacks to the Robert Oster Pen Chalet collab earlier in the year. As for this Colorverse offering, the dynamics are pretty good on Rhodia with a broad nib starting in the lighter mids and fading just past those darker mids before flirting with the transition tones. Flow and lubrication also seem to be on point. In the 3 weeks that I've been writing with this ink, I've had no hard starting or skipping, and as you can see here, we don't seem to be losing any line width like we've seen on other inks. On the normal paper with this ink, I'm not feeling the price performance is up there though. We are still going to look at this ink on Tomoe, but at this juncture, I think this ink would be better if the price was closer to $8, or if they did this in the 30ml bottle for $11 or $14. So let's go ahead and move on to my daily driver paper and see if my thoughts can change. Spoiler alert, my mind isn't changed by the Tomoe performance either. This ink, while being a good performer with good color, and above average performance indicators does not match up to 73 cents per mil. For a collector ink though, yeah, it's good. Much like on Rhodia, we are getting a good dynamic from the lighter mids to the darker mids. We still don't fully hit those transition tones, but the Sedona feel is really well done, and if anything, I do like the dynamic transitions that are just a little bit better here on Tomoe. And though I'm not a fan of the price, this bottle will probably stay in the collection instead of making its way into someone else's hands. And that's almost exclusively due to the bottle design, water performance, and overall color. But that's going to do it for our look at Colorverse Red Rock. If you like this video, then hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done that yet, and if you want to be a legend and help support the channel, consider becoming a patron. The link is down below. Till the next video, don't drink the ink.